Roasting Robusta. Hello and welcome to this episode with me, Francis Beck, on critical coffee considerations. Last week, my partner in crime, Dr. B, came back to get his Aillio Bullet back. That's the R1, of course, because I now acquired the R2 Professional Aillio roaster. Now I'm still waiting for it to arrive, so I thought it's a good time to do an experiment with some of my fine Robusta coffee, with my first professional, well, no, not professional, but home roaster, the Gene Café, because of course my very first roastery is still up there, the popcorn popper. Of course, we'll do actually a comparison between the Gene Café and using an air fryer. On the air fryer, I will just put a smaller amount of coffee. Let's see how much that is. So this is my usual way of determining the density of the beans, because I always use the same volume, which is this Nutella jar, and then you just kind of go over like this so that you have a consistent volume inside. And so this is a Robusta 182.4 grams per 250 ml. So that's quite a dense coffee. I have preheated both machines. Maximum capacity for this one is actually 200 degrees, and for this one it is 250. So we'll just go and set the profile, and we'll start up both machines, and then I'll continue actually filming it, but I will not be talking because there will be, of course, a lot of noise. During that time, I will be dialing in a Robusta roast that I did earlier with the Aillio Bullet. Actually, the last kilogram I roasted on that machine. So I did a 5-minute preheat with this one, and now I will set the time on 15 minutes. I put it on the maximum. Of 250 degrees. So this is roasting by heating the air. So you don't really have too much to set. Basically, 250 as a max temperature. If you reach that temperature, it will actually no longer heat the air. It will just flush it with unheated air, you could of course say. So this one is preheated as well. Okay, and you already have one form. The beans fall through the thingy there. Select first compartment. Again, you cannot put a higher temperature, and we have 15 minutes here as well. So we push the start button. So we have now two simultaneous roasts, and so what we have here already in the Crema grinder is the Robusta 1 kilogram batch I did on the Aillio Bullet. Actually, I was doing this as a workshop for somebody I met in Bogota. He came by the roastery. I showed him the whole kind of process. If you would like an adventure workshop like this, always welcome to pass here to my roastery. And so, but the thing was, I selected, of course, the Robusta. It's my cheapest coffee to do this kind of a workshop. And so now we have been drinking Robusta with my wife the last week already. It's the only coffee now on the menu, and what you might realize is that it has, Robusta can have a very strong bitter kind of taste, and that makes dialing in a Robusta coffee even more important than an Arabica coffee. And you should actually, that has been my discovery the last week, you really have to dial it in like a ristretto instead of an espresso, because then you're able to push aside a little bit those more bitter tastes. And basically, because it's general knowledge that the more bitter tastes, they come out later, in brewing an espresso. That's the same for Arabica as for Robusta, but in Robusta you just have so much more of those bitter flavors that you want to aim for a ristretto to, you know, move in the direction of an Arabica. That's the logic that I'm actually going to try by properly dialing in, and then afterwards we're going to compare with the coffees coming out of the Gene Café, coming out of the air fryer. Just one last thing, you should actually be shaking. You know, I made it very early in my YouTube series. I made an episode with the popper there called Coffea Torrendum Interruptus, that you can use these kind of easy devices, but you have to interrupt roasting and give it a good shake so that you get a more even roast. But it's good to know that even at your home, if you have an air fryer, you know, you can have an experiment. You can also just use your stovetop and a frying pan and start roasting at home a little bit. And of course, you can make it even easier for yourself. Go to my website, 212coffees.be, and select the custom roast, where you can just select, you know, exactly the amount that you want it roasted by indicating the color of your preference. So that's actually the easiest. So I'll now turn on here the ventilation so I don't suffocate in all the CO2 coming out from this roasting, and I will start dialing in. Let's see how this evolves. I'm talking about why I think it's important that you dial in your pure fine Robustas as a ristretto, but I also want to tackle something else, you know, and admit maybe my mistake. During my weeks in Italy, I have been starting also to stir my coffee, just to experiment, especially with the kind of more darkly roasted Italian roast that you get in Italy, of course, and you get a lot more crema, which I love crema, right? And because I love it so much, you know, I don't want to stir it, I don't want to break the crema basically. But I was sipping some not that tasty espressos in Italy, as it also happens, and it's like, you know, let's try to stir it, maybe it does get better, and on certain occasions it does. So definitely, you know, maybe there is context for stirring, right? There's a situation where you might want to stir. Now, as you can see, this coming out from the machine, there's so much crema on this. So let's first, well, actually, funny enough, because there's so much crema, and this type of a glass, I'm not really able to put my mouth on the crema, so to say. So there goes that first experiment, I guess. Now give it a stir. And of course you do get possibly, you know, it's a dark chocolate taste on this Robusta, but as I like, not too much of that tanginess that you get with Robusta. For that same reason, I was dialing in the Robusta that I got from the Aillio, which is this one, and as I was dialing that in, I was roasting basically those two. Now, of course, I forgot to take my scale. So here I am with a glass to measure those densities. So this was roasted still on the Aillio R1. A shout out to Bernard. It's actually okay. And so this has a density of 89.5. So when using this kind of 250 milliliter jar, if you go below 90, you know it's good for espresso. Up to 95, it's okay with espresso, and above 95, it's probably a lighter roast that you should be considering more with having a filter as a method. So this one was prepared with the Gene Café, and I put it at 15 minutes, 250 degrees. I'm getting 85 grams here. Of course, it makes sense, you know, it's you know, despite it being a different roaster, just color-wise, the time, you know, here it got, I guess, 11 or 12 minutes, I don't remember exactly. Now, this was the experiment with the air fryer. So again, we need to scale this because the glasses you get from Nutella are not weighing exactly the same.
And so here we have 115.5 grams. This is basically still undrinkable. I mean, maybe for an Arabic roast, maybe, and if you have a lot of muscles and you're able to grind your way through this, maybe then you could consume it. I could also just give this a second roast. I mean, it's not that I have that much experience with interrupting a roast, but sometimes you have an accident, and I don't like to throw something away that's still, of acceptable biological safety, I could say, like that, right? So get to see how this is so different. Unfortunately, I cannot recommend you to use an air fryer to do your home roasting. James Hoffman actually also has a video on that. But this machine only could go to 200 degrees, and usually a first crack would in theory be possible, because for a first crack you just need to reach 192 degrees. But it's not that the machine says 200 as a setting, that it's actually reaching 200. This was a 2-compartment one, so maybe if you heat the compartment below, it's a cheap one from Aldi. There's options out there. I would personally think, we're just a few years away from maybe seeing a lot of home roasters based on air fryer design or something like this. Because if you just get, something to rotate the beans inside of an air fryer, a little bit like the smart box that you can buy in Japan, you would have like these small home roasting devices that would not cost an arm and a leg. The Gene Café, okay, it's around 600 euros now, if I'm not mistaken. It's doable, and if you consider, I have it for now, I guess 4 years or something like this, so I definitely earned back the cost of investing in that and having the fun of roasting at home. So I'm covering too much ground in this video, as per my usual, but I wanted to come back to why it's important to go for a ristretto dial-in for Robusta. Now, this Robusta, when I just have it out there, it's just so all this tanginess, all this dryness you get, right? But if I go for a ristretto, I'm able to cut away a part of this very, very tangy flavors, right? So here I did a sequence of every 5 seconds. It started a few seconds later, so the first one actually got 8 seconds, so let's not consider the pre-infusion on that. So this is the 5-second mark. That's extremely intense, of course. There's some tanginess in there, but there's also some saltiness in there. It's a good experiment to do a salami shot, because it's the same coffee, you get to explore it in different ways. A better way to do it than now, because I didn't find the cups I was looking for, is if you're doing a doppio, you keep one side for the full shot and the second one to change glasses every 5 seconds to do your salami shot, right? So now we're going to seconds 10 to 15, sorry, 5 to 10. And even at 5 to 10, it's already a lot weaker, the taste, right? The taste is already a lot weaker. That's why, you can actually recombine your salamis. It's easier to do this with coffee than with actual salami. This already dilutes this, so the combined flavor of this is better, of course. There's not too much tanginess in that part yet either, right? And now we have 10 to 15. Again, weaker in taste. To get this proper, I should be drinking water between each step, but just, I'm trying to adjust for the bias and saying it is weaker. And a little bit of that dryness is starting to appear. So these three things together should somehow, let's give it also a good stir, be comparable to the coffee we have here. But of course I made this one last, so it's a little bit still nicer and hotter. And now we're getting in the territory where I'm, advising not to go with Robusta, pure Robusta Espresso, which, of course I'm biased, but at this point it's just tasting very weak and not too much tanginess. Okay, this last 22, 25 part here already has really only tanginess, basically. Only this kind of dry, you know, I feel it on the top of my tongue. You know, I don't know where I'm supposed to feel it, let's say. So this really, for me, you know, is just the experience I had last week. I had this kilogram of fine Robusta, and you know, I bought 20 kilograms. So if you're interested, go to my shop, 200coffees.be. It's the cheapest coffee I have there. It is a quality coffee. You can get a chocolate-like espresso, pure Robusta. Of course, you can also ask me to make an Italian blend. And then I can either, based on your preference, do 50 or 30% of this Robusta. Even in the blends, the Italian blends, I would advise to, you know, don't go up to 25 seconds for your shots. Have it, you know, around 20 seconds in that case. And it's just based on, you know, this extraction logic. The more bitter tasting parts will extract at the later time. And because Robusta is just a lot more bitter than Arabica, it makes sense that when you're dialing in your either pure Robusta or Robusta blend, that you aim for more something like a ristretto rather than an espresso to get a similar experience. I mean, it's still different. It will feel more potent, of course, also because you're going in the direction of a ristretto. Last thing, you know, in the experiment, you know, the whole setup of that air fryer just doesn't work, and the beads were basically falling through the mesh here, and then I guess some of them are like getting stuck, and although it's not roasted sufficiently for drinking, the beans were already expanding. Otherwise, it would have been the same 180 somewhat grams that we started out with. So we covered a lot of ground here in this video, and of course at May's Botanic Garden we also work on Robusta. So I already took up the interest in Robusta before because you know, I started drinking espressos in Italy, where Robusta is still a fundamental part of an Italian espresso, you could say. I definitely say it. It just gives you so much crema. It's mind blowing how much crema you get out of Robusta. This coffee I've had in my garage for a month, so it's between 0 and 5 degrees, and you know, it's not in an airtight container. Of course, it was a container filled with this coffee, so given the lower temperature, I guess it's more comparable to if it would have been in an airtight container, right? And the reason I'm saying this is it's now the second batch of that kilogram that I started, and with the first batch, as I introduced it into my Eureka grinder, I could just see the impact of, you know, it's here a higher temperature around 20 degrees, and across several days it's also exposed more to the air, and it's by the end of getting to, you know, the 250 grams that I had in one container, it started to be properly dialed in. Now this just came today from my garage, and there's just so much crema, which makes dialing in very difficult. That's just also the reason why they would say don't you know, make espressos with your coffee directly after roasting. Although, you know, it's tempting because you get all this crema, and if you like crema, it's you know, I mean, you try it out definitely, you know, but know that it is more sensible to let it rest a few days, especially if it's pure Robusta or if it's a blend with a considerable fraction of Robusta. So here we have been having fun with roasting Robusta. I'll have one kind of epilogue part about a Robusta coffee from my botanic garden. I mean, from the Congo, actually, from a partnership with the Congo. So we were enjoying that with Mr. T and Charles from the Churchyards, two good friends. And it's still early in the year, and I got New Year's wishes from both, and actually also from Charles's family as well. So this is a shout out to Mr. T, to Charles, and to the from the Churchyard family for all the wishes, and sending, of course, my wishes for 2000.
So this coffee
this was a fragment
is actually 100%
last year,
Robusta.
trying
It's
Espresso
being grown
coffee
in
together.
Yangambi, the Democratic Republic of Congo, where Maris Botanic Garden works together with the Congolese institutes that try to revitalize the coffee industry in Congo.
For now, I'll just say thanks for having followed this episode. Hope you learned something about roasting Robusta and dialing in Robusta and why to aim to have it something like a ristretto, and hope to see you on a next episode. Thanks.